Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're here at the Tibetan Buddhist Society, magnificent traditional Tibetan temple, the Peaceful Land of Joy Meditation Center, and this is the 4:00 Path to Enlightenment live stream. So, if anyone wants the prayers that we say, a copy of the prayers, then you can email events@tushita.org, and we'll send you a copy. So thanks for tuning in. We'll start off with the prayers from this Prayers for the Path of Indivisible, Great Bliss and Emptiness by Geshe Acharya Thubten Loden. So it's the general prayers and the prayers for the path to enlightenment. And the idea of the prayers is, lots of things, but we're giving voice to something beyond the mundane, beyond our ordinary day-to-day stuff. Looking at the big picture, looking at our potential for enlightenment, and all the living beings' potential for enlightenment, and what are the steps to get there. And we're giving voice to requesting the extraordinary lineage of gurus from Shakyamuni Buddha all the way through to our kind root Lama, Geshe Acharya Thubten Loden. So during the prayers we try and focus and enjoy them. So start off with a couple in Tibetan. Praise to Shakyamuni Buddha. On page 19. Tampa Chandandi Deji Japa Dajampa Yantapa Sopi Sanji Ripa Dajatsu Tempa Dewa Japa Jiten Tempa Tiba Dewi Telu Dewa Nana me pa la da nati tampa sanje chandende ajawa chatya tupala chatsala chada jatsu jivu. Teacher, Bhagawan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly pure and complete Buddha, all-knowing, having poise, Sugata, apprehender of the world, navigator of beings to be subdued, incomparable, teacher of gods and humans, to the Buddha, the Bhagawan, the glorious conqueror Shakyamuni, we prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Sanghajo Dhamso Tihi Dhamma Jatubhadudani Jatsuchi Tadidin Sudipizonanti Tulapendisandi To the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I go for refuge until becoming enlightened. Through the merit of my generosity and so on, may I achieve Buddhahood to benefit all beings. To the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I go for refuge until becoming enlightened. Through the merit of my generosity and so on, may I achieve Buddhahood to benefit all beings. This ground, anointed with perfume and strewn with flowers, Mount Meru, the 4 continents, adorned with sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered thus, may all beings enjoy such pure lands. I prostrate my 3 doors with a mind of respect and offer all actually arranged and mentally emanated offerings. I reveal all the downfalls and negativities that I've ever collected and rejoice in the virtues of individuals and superiors. Please remain perfectly abiding until samsara is no longer seen. I request you to turn the vast and profound wheels of Dharma. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. And page 23, prayer of the lineage of gurus. Body born from 1,000,000 magnificent excellent virtues, speech fulfilling the hopes of infinite beings, a mind that sees all objects of knowledge precisely, I bow my head to the chief among the Shakyas. Supreme sons of the incomparable teacher, carrying the load of all the conqueror's deeds, by their emanations appearing in countless realms, I prostrate to Maitreya and Manjushri. The mother of conquerors is difficult to fathom. The precise thought is in commentaries written by Jampavipa's ornaments, Nagarjuna and Asanga. I prostrate at the feet of those most renowned in the three realms. From these two great chariots come the excellent lineages of the paths of profound view and vast deeds. Their essential points gathered thoroughly and without fault. Prostration to the lamp holding this treasure of instruction. Giving explanation through compassion, by seeing precisely and completely the essential points of all paths of Sutra and Tantra. Holder of the conqueror's entire holy Dharma, prostrations to the glorious Losandrapa. I, seeing all the infinite teachings, supreme way of crossing for those entering the journey to liberation, moved by compassion to deeds skilled in method, prostrations to the spiritual masters who make everything clear. And the great treasury of excellence. The kind master is the basis of all qualities, and proper alliance is the root of the path. By seeing this excellence and through much striving, bestow blessings to be devoted with great respect. This gentle support of freedom, obtained this one time, is most difficult to achieve. Knowing its great value, gives rise to a mind seizing its essence constantly day and night. Bestow blessings to generate this continuum unceasingly. It is like a bubble in water, this constantly moving body and life. Thus remember the swift collapse of death. Beyond death, like body and shadow, white and black karmic results follow after. By gaining firm certainty in this, the mass of faults, subtle and very subtle, are abandoned, and the accomplishment of all virtuous collections completed. Bestow blessings to ever attain conscientiousness. The qualities of samsara are unfit to be trusted, the door to all suffering. Do not be content with these enjoyments. By knowing its defects, bestow blessings to develop a great aspiration for the bliss of liberation. By that pure thought, great conscientiousness is drawn forth, and mindfulness and awareness of the individual liberation, the root of the teachings. Bestow blessings to make this the essential practice. Just as I myself have fallen into samsara's ocean, all living beings as mother are also like that. By seeing the responsibility for the liberation of beings, bestow blessings to be trained in supreme bodhicitta. However, by merely generating the mind, if not acquainted with the three aspects of ethics, enlightenment will not be attained. By seeing this excellence, bestow blessings to train with strong effort in the vows of the conqueror's sons. Pacifying distraction toward perverse objects, by way of proper analysis of the perfect meaning, bestow blessings to swiftly and continuously generate the path related to the union of calm abiding and special insight. Thus, becoming a vessel trained in the common paths, enter the Vajrayana, supreme evolution of all vehicles. Bestow blessings to engage the easy path itself, that sacred way of crossing for fortunate beings. The base of practice for the two aspects of attainment is when guarding the pure vows of commitment is found to be genuine and certain. Bestow blessings to protect them even at risk of life. Then, by understanding properly the important points, which are the essence of the two stages of the Tantra classes, bestow blessings to practice according to these holy teachings, with continuous effort in the supreme 4-session yoga. Like that, may the spiritual friend revealing the gentle path and the friends of proper practice stand firm, bestow blessings to quickly pacify the masses of outer and inner hindrances. In all rebirths may I never be parted from perfect gurus and the enjoyment of the glorious Dharma. By utterly completing all qualities, paths and grounds, may I quickly achieve the state of Vajradhara. Okay, so we start off with some meditation. Excuse me. And so sitting in meditation posture, ideally you're nice and comfortable, and but not maybe in a recliner with a cocktail. Ideally with sitting on a cushion, but if you can't, then sitting in a chair with your back reasonably straight. And right hand in left hand, thumbs meeting in the gesture of concentration like this. That indicates if we've fallen asleep, because our thumbs go over before we topple over. And we'll start off, we'll do a meditation on visualizing Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. So it's sort of like a bit of taken parts out of the Sadhana, the Shakyamuni Buddha Sadhana that's Geshe's painstakingly translated. And we haven't got time to do the whole thing, so just a few bits from that sadhana. One of the advantages of meditating, visualizing on an enlightened being, as well as developing our concentration, then we're bringing enlightenment to mind. And we're bringing in particular Shakyamuni Buddha, the founder of this tradition from 2,500 years ago, but also trying to get a sense, it's not just a historical figure, but that Guru Shakyamuni Buddha is present here and now and can bless us through us developing this connection. And that also the visualization of the Buddha encompasses the entire Dharma. So the symbolism of different aspects of the visualization. So not only are we bringing our mind to enlightenment, we're bringing our mind to the entire path to enlightenment. And and we're gaining a connection to the Buddha. If we have a root guru, then we can go further, and we imagine, or we gain a sense that it's actually our kind root Lama, who we have a very personal connection to, is appearing in front of us in the form of the Buddha, or encompassing the Buddha and the Dharma. And so it's very good for nurturing or awakening our Buddha nature, because we're bringing our mind to the entirety of the path and to our enlightenment. We're basically visualizing our own future Buddhahood, maybe. That's one way of looking at it. And if anyone is listening who's not a Buddhist, then you can really see that this image of the Buddha, like the statue behind me or the paintings of the Buddhas, you can see them as a representation of how would someone be if someone was in a really wonderful state in all aspects, like in terms of their at complete peace and limitless compassion and love for all living beings, and insight into the nature of reality, gone beyond all suffering, gone beyond all problems, endless energy to help others. So you can imagine if you attained that mental state, and try to imagine how that would express in physical form. And that's what these images around this temple of the various enlightened beings, including Shakyamuni Buddha, that's what they're expressions of that perfect state that we're striving for. So that's one way to approach it. If you're if you're not Buddhist. Yeah. Okay, so we start off and letting go of any worries and tension, any, all the drama we've read in the news on worries about COVID or whatever, any stuff, just letting it go for this session. We don't need to focus on that. So on just focusing on your breath, sensation of your breath for a few breaths. So find the object, the sensation of your breath at the nostrils, or the sensation in your abdomen, and rest the mind on the breath. And now we can establish the pure Mahayana motivation to ensure this session today becomes a cause for your eventual enlightenment. And so we generate the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, and recognizing, just as I myself strive, need peace and happiness, and need to be free of endless samsaric suffering, dissatisfaction, problems, never-ending difficulties. So the same for my family, my friends, people I don't know, people I don't like, all animals, all living beings have this fundamental aspiration for peace and happiness, for well-being, for contentment, and to be free of so many difficulties. So we develop the compassionate mind. May all living beings without exception be free of all suffering and attain the peace and happiness they aspire for. Thinking from one's heart. Connecting your mind with all living beings. Recognizing the sameness of myself and everyone else in this regard. And so we determine that we must realize our potential. We must unlock this potential hidden within our minds, our Tathagata essence, the natural purity of mind, and remove any obscuring delusions, confusion, destructive emotions, and so on. so that we attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings without exception. And to do so, we'll practice visualizing Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. So visualize in space in front of you, at the level of your forehead. From empty space appears a golden throne, supported by 8 mighty snow lions. In the nature of light, everything in the visualization is composed of radiant, brilliant light. And this throne represents the omniscient mind, the wisdom truth body, that is the basis of all Buddha emanations, all enlightened activities to benefit others. On top of the throne is a white, perfect white lotus flower. This represents the realization of renunciation. As a lotus, perfect lotus arises from a muddy swamp. So the mind of renunciation arises from the swamp of suffering. Turning away from suffering. On top is a moon cushion, a full moon, a flat moon disk, symbolizing pure good heart, loving kindness, compassion, and particularly the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, the realization of bodhicitta. And on top is a sun cushion, representing the perfect wisdom of Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. Just as the sun dispels darkness, so wisdom eliminates all confusion. And on top of these throne, white lotus, moon disk and sun disk, arises Guru Shakyamuni Buddha in the form as you see in the statue or statues in paintings, but composed of light, radiant, brilliant, golden light natured, emanating light in all directions. Shakyamuni Buddha is smiling gently towards you, compassionately towards you. And his one face symbolizes the realization of the one nature of all things, their emptiness of inherent existence. His right hand represents great method, and the left, great wisdom. His right hand rests on his right knee in the earth-touching gesture, showing he has the power to dispel all negativity, and especially the suffering of lower rebirth. His left, in the gesture of meditative equipoise, holds a begging bowl at his lap that's full of wisdom nectar. The nectar that eliminates all disease and all delusion, He wears the 3 saffron robes of a monk, showing his ethics are completely pure. He's seated in the Vajra posture, the lotus posture, showing perfect meditative equipoise. And he's adorned with the 32 major and 80 minor marks of a supreme being, an enlightened being. A Shakyamuni Buddha's crown is a white Om syllable. At his throat, a red R, and his heart, a blue Om, representing enlightened body, enlightened speech, and enlightened mind. And around the blue Om syllable at his heart circles his mantra rosary, Om Muni Muni Maha Muni E Soha. From the blue Om, a mantra rosary at Shakyamuni Buddha's heart, and limitless white light emanates in the 10 directions, transforming into offerings, making offerings to the limitless Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, all holy beings throughout the universe. If we like, we can just imagine beautiful offerings, different beautiful things. Or we can visualize, for example, the 8 auspicious symbols, such as the precious umbrella, golden fishes, the great treasure vase, the gentle lotus, the white spiraling conch, the glorious endless knot, the victory sign, and the Dharma wheel. And also visualize offering the 5 qualities of enjoyment, the mirror, the lute, the incense, the fruit, and the cloth. So making perfect offerings to all Buddhas. All these holy beings transform into wisdom being Shakyamuni Buddhas. And they all come back and dissolve into the Shakyamuni Buddha, Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, visualized in front. We call that the commitment being. So all the Buddhas come and dissolve into Shakyamuni Buddha, visualized directly in front of you at the level of your forehead, and become one. At this point, we feel this isn't no longer just a visualization in front of me, but this is in actuality Guru Shakyamuni Buddha appearing in front. Or if we have a kind root Lama, this is in actuality my kind root Lama appearing in front in the form of Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, here to bless us, here to benefit us. So at this point, we can make requests on behalf of all living beings. So we can visualize all living beings around us in the form of humans, with all the difficulties and suffering of samsara, of psychic existence. So difficulties of aging and sickness, of poverty, of addiction, of war, abuse, and various mental sufferings, emotional sufferings, like loneliness and depression, dissatisfaction, frustration, and so on, anger. So all the problems in psychic existence. And so we make a request to Shakyamuni Buddha in front that you are our Guru, you are the Buddha jewel, you are the Dharma jewel, you are the Sangha jewel, and you are our great protector. From now until enlightenment, release us from all suffering, all causes of suffering. Release us from all negativity, obscurations, hindrances, all disease and sickness, all short life, and so on, all causes of suffering. And bestow on us the realizations of renunciation, bodhicitta, and wisdom. So, after making requests from our heart, and visualize brilliant white light and nectar comes from Shakyamuni Buddha's heart, from the home and mantra rosary, and coming down, entering through our crown, and through the crowns of all living beings around. And this white light purifies our body and mind, and washes out all negativity, all suffering, all disease, and so on, in the form of black light, black smoke, dark impurities. If you want, you can visualize blood or pus. This is all washed out through the lower parts of our body, through the lower orifices, and through the pores of the skin. So the brilliant white light comes down, filling you and washing out all suffering, all your worries, and so on, all sickness. And if you like, you can recite Shakyamuni Buddha's mantra while you visualize this purification. Om Muni Muni, Maha Muniye Soha. 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 So we feel that I myself and all living beings We're completely purified and receive the realization of peacefulness. Our body is completely filled with peaceful, radiant, healing white light. Then again, from Shakyamuni Buddha's heart, golden light emanates in the 10 directions, touching all living beings and all environments. The environments are transformed into pure lands, heavenly realms, free of suffering, and all living beings are transformed into Guru Shakyamuni Buddhas. And these all then come back and dissolve into Shakyamuni Buddha visualized in front of you. And Guru Shakyamuni Buddha comes to the crown of your head and dissolves into you. And you become one. And we feel my ordinary body and Guru Shakyamuni Buddha's Vajra body are non-dual. My ordinary speech and Guru Shakyamuni Buddha's Vajra speech are non-dual. And my ordinary mind and Guru Shakyamuni Buddha's Vajra mind, the enlightened mind, become one, are non-dual. And we can finish the meditation. Okay, so now we're all enlightened. We don't have to practice the path to enlightenment anymore. We can have a holiday. If only it was so easy. So we're on to the perfection of patience, page 703 in the path so we're studying the path to enlightenment in Tibetan Buddhism. This Geshe Acharya Thubten Loden's masterpiece, extraordinary text, and page 703, the perfection of patience. So this is the third of the Bodhisattva actions. So we've looked at the perfection of generosity and the perfection of ethics, and now we're doing perfection of patience. That's the third of the 6 perfections. The fourth is joyous effort, and the 5th is concentration, and the 6th is the perfection of wisdom. So, so looking at perfection of patience, and sort of patience has a little bit of a different meaning to what's generally, some people might think patience is. So it's not the nature of patience. I'll read. There's a division on page 703. It says, following the perfection of ethics, we move to the third of the Bodhisattva activities, the perfection of patience. It's considered in 5 parts. The nature of patience, how one is led to meditate on patience, divisions of patience, practicing patience with the ancillaries in summary. So nature of patience, it's not about gritting your teeth and grinding your way through experience as though you hate it. It's not about becoming a blank with no personality, no expression. And it's also not about becoming a doormat or becoming just a passive, anyone can walk over you. The practice of patience is it's quite an active thing where actively trying to control the harmful aspects of our mind. So it's an active mind, the mind of patience. It's a controlled mind. So on page 704, Geshe defines patience, the nature of patience. And he says, patience is a virtuous mind that can remain indifferent to any form of harm inflicted by others, can voluntarily endure any form of suffering, and remain definitely thinking about the Dharma. When motivated by bodhicitta, it becomes a perfection of patience. So, that has several parts of the definition. So first is that it's a virtuous mind. It's practicing patience with regards to a virtuous activity, virtuous motivation. So for example, lying in wait to ambush someone who's upset you is not, or is not patience, sort of holding in mind and just biding your time to have a go at someone. That's not the practice of patience. Patience is a virtuous mind. And lying in wait as a hunter isn't practicing patience. So it says indifferent to any form of harm. So the mind of indifference is not, what it's trying to get at is not riled. You don't become riled up. You don't become agitated, stressed, and so on. The mind of patience doesn't have those problematic aspects. The next part of the definition was voluntarily endure suffering. So rather than our normal response to difficulty, where we're always trying to get away from it and becoming upset by it, becoming worried or stressed or depressed or whatever, too much imagination of problems that are going to ensue. It's voluntarily enduring, so it's sort of it's in the sense of taking this difficult situation on board. This is part of my life experience. This is part of my mind, the way I'm experiencing it, and sort of owning it, taking it. And the fourth part was definitely thinking about the Dharma. So again, when we're going through hardship, difficult experiences that patience helps us deal with, then we try to think about the Dharma, engage those experiences in a constructive way. So we're actually getting something out of them as well as experiencing suffering. We're not going in a harmful direction or negative direction. We're actually using the experience to develop our wisdom or develop our compassion, develop our understanding of karma and so on, impermanence. So we're using the experience to traverse the path to enlightenment, no matter what life throws at us. That's the practice of patience. So there's no, we can be harmed by lots of different things. We can be harmed by different people. There's always harmful people in psychic existence, samsara, who might harm you in different ways through physical harm or stealing something from you. We're harmed by disease, by sickness. No one wants it, but everyone gets headaches, gets the flu. People get diabetes, strokes, heart attacks, cancer, COVID-19, and so on. Lots of different diseases, lots of microbes and viruses. We're harmed by them. Patience is a stable mind, a peaceful mind that's able to face that experience without the urge to lash out and destroy something, without the urge to retaliate and harm someone else. So it's an extraordinary strong mind that can retain your practice, your Dharma practice, no matter come what may. And Geshe very often say it's a mind of great strength. it's a mind of great courage, because the mind of patience isn't shying away or panicking in the face of these difficult experiences. It's looking at them directly, it's owning them, it's taking them on the chin, it's transforming them into the path to enlightenment. It's doing so without fear and without stress. So it's an extraordinary achievement, an extraordinary accomplishment. These practitioners such as Geshe, who really could experience, for example, what happened in Tibet. So these practitioners, great practitioners, nothing phases them, absolutely nothing. And we saw that with Geshe over many, many years. It'd be a wonderful way to be. So that's what we're trying to get to. And the imagery used, I think, in the 22 examples of bodhicitta, patience is illustrated by a great ocean. So an ocean is not disturbed, no matter what storm is raging over the ocean. It's only the surface that's where there's waves. The great mass of water, the depths, are not disturbed by these winds and these storms. And and there's lots of benefits we'll look into. It stops our crazy impulses, our crazy, irrational, destructive reactions to harm, like, harming other people and destroying things. And motivated by bodhicitta, if we practice patience motivated by bodhicitta, then it becomes a perfection of patience. It becomes a perfect action, perfect practice. And in particular, if we can join it also with some understanding of emptiness. But baseline, we try to bring bodhicitta to mind when we're practicing patience. So on 704, Geshe quotes Shantideva in engaging in the bodhisattva deeds. The peerless master, great scholar Shantideva is how Geshe used to refer to him. And Shantideva says, unruly beings are as space. They cannot possibly all be overcome. But if I overcome just thoughts of anger, this will be the same as vanquishing all. So it's sort of a old term, unruly beings, but it's sort of beings whose minds are uncontrolled. They're controlled by delusion and karma and negativity, destructive emotions, and so on. So within samsara, within psychic existence, we're all bound, we're all controlled by our karma and our delusion. And it colors how we perceive things, how we respond to things. And for that reason, there's endless opportunities to practice patience. We very easily get upset, and there's endless beings around who, in different ways, can upset us. So, for example, on the train, I get the train to work in the morning, and there's always coughers, there's sneezers, there's burpers, there's parpers, there's droolers, there's dribblers, there's a great mass. There's people with headphones blasting out, some gangster rap, or and you're trying to you're trying to enjoy the sights of the northern suburbs like Jakarta and Pascoe Vale, but it's hard. But also, there's always people snuffling. It's very hard, and it seems that young guys in particular, not so much into handkerchiefs. Some young guys. So you're sitting on the train, and instead of investing a cent in a tissue, well, I suppose some people don't like blowing this horrible stuff into a tissue and then putting it in your pocket. That's not, many people think, why would you do that with such a horrible substance? Anyway, so that's another practice of patience, you spend 40 minutes next to someone who's going and so on. Yeah, so it can be quite hard to concentrate on your meditation on the train. Anyway, by now you've probably guessed I use the Craigieburn line. Anyway, if even if there was no other annoying people around and we were in heaven, we'd still be upset because our minds would carry our impatience with us. So we'd quickly get bored, everything's so wonderful, all these lovely clouds and fluffy clouds and beautiful things, and I'm so bored with this, and we'd get upset, we'd probably get angry because we've got the seeds of anger and so on. So in reality, we've got quite a narrow band of things that we find acceptable, and if it goes straight outside of that, we tend to become unhappy. So there's a narrow band of saltiness. You want just the right amount of salt. If it goes too much or too little, we don't like it. Same with sweetness. Too much, horribly sweet, can't stand it, get upset. No sweetness, we find it too bitter. In terms of temperature, we've got quite a narrow band that we find acceptable. In terms of the tone and volume that people use when they're speaking to us, we don't like being shouted at, and it's annoying if you can't hear someone, you have to keep saying, pardon, what did you say? So we're quite demanding, and also the tone has to be within what we accept, otherwise we're upset again. And also in terms of space, we feel we want people to be just the right distance from us. If they come too close, we feel we've been assaulted or they're impinging on our personal space. But if they're too far away, then we start to feel that they don't like us. There's something wrong with us. We want them to orbit us like a satellite orbits the Earth, just in the right zone for our comfort. So we're quite easily we're quite demanding in our minds. So let's read a bit more Shantideva. We can never get enough Shantideva. He says, to cover the surface of the earth, there would be insufficient leather, but leather just on the soles of the shoes is equivalent to covering the earth. So Shantideva there is talking about you don't want your feet to be hurt or harmed by all the rough things on the planet, like sharp rocks and bits of glass and this, that, and the other, prickle bushes. And so you can either try to protect yourself by covering the entire surface of the earth, which will take you a fair long time. And in those days, they only had leather, they didn't have synthetics. But Shantideva said, well, that's not realistic. So instead, why not just cover your feet, the soles of your feet, with back then everyone was wearing leather shoes. Again, there was no synthetics, and you were then protected no matter where you went. And likewise, we can protect ourselves by trying to control the world, trying to control samsara, psychic existence, trying to encourage people to behave in particular ways to us with particular tones and particular distance and do things we find nice. But that's not going to work. The samsara is, there's no depth, it's vast, and there's limitless beings. And there's limitless different conditions, like the weather is always changing and the economy is always changing. We can't control the world, but we can control our mind. We can guard our mind and our reactions. And so, step by step, through practicing patience, we can transform our experiences of samsara. So in actuality, our minds are protected, no matter where we go, just as we're protected with our shoes. And step by step, if we train ourselves, eventually we'll gain the Bodhisattvas patience, where absolutely nothing is a problem, and we've gone beyond all fear and all anger and all stress and worry through our practice of patience. So we don't need to just run around demanding world peace. We need to, so shouting out, we need to stamp out violence. We need to cultivate peace within, and then naturally that peace will start to permeate beyond our own experience and actually help others. So that's what we're trying to train in this path to enlightenment. So next section is how one is led to meditate on patience. And I'll talk a bit about anger, because Geshe, he used to spend a lot of time, a lot more than is presented in the book, on anger, because it's so prevalent. Like one Easter retreat, Samadhi retreat, he pretty much every session he taught the antidotes, taught the disadvantages to anger and the antidotes to anger and so on. And so we'll look at, and it's the opposite of patience. So we need to understand it to be able to practice patience. So a definition of anger is perceiving something, or particularly someone, as unpleasant, exaggerating their unpleasantness and wishing to harm them in some way. So and we can think, anger's not really my problem. I haven't really got an anger problem, but the chances are that's because we don't know ourselves very well. Because the Buddha said anger is one of the 3 root delusions. It's the 3 roots of samsara. So there's a good chance we're not. If we ask who's correct, the Buddha or ourselves, or if we say I haven't got anger, I'm not angry, then there's a good chance the Buddha's on the ball, and we don't quite know ourselves as well as the Buddha the Buddha does. So we might just have a very good conditions at the moment, and we've had a nice life. We haven't had violent, abusive parents. But, if we were lucky, we might have had loving, kind parents. We might have good situation now, and so really, there's no conditions stimulating our anger, and no one's pressing our buttons. But we do have buttons, and probably anyone who's had children and brought them up to the point where they're teenagers, they discover the teenagers quickly find their buttons and gravitate towards them. So if the conditions change, for example, if we get a new neighbour and who turns up and he's a Harley-Davidson enthusiast or a motorbike enthusiast, and he's very much into fine-tuning the engine late at night, and sort of invites some of his mates around who are also quite keen to fine-tune their motor late at night, then after 2 or 3 days we might discover maybe I do have anger after all, because I'm becoming very sleep deprived. So and anger, there's a range of things, from sort of irritability, grumpiness, through to anger, through to and resentment, and full-blown hatred. And the wish to harm We might think we don't have anger because we're not punching anyone on the nose, but the wish to harm someone may not be expressed, but may be there, or it may be expressed just in sort of different, sometimes sneaky ways. We want to harm someone's well-being. So, physically, we might harm people directly, like punching them on the nose or damaging their property, or road rage, or dropping bombs or shooting someone. That's sort of direct physical harm. But verbally, there's lots of ways we harm other people's well-being and get at them. It can be yelling at someone, can be quietly saying something but aiming at their heart, something we know is going to upset them. Can be just a very uptight tone when we're speaking. When we're angry, often you hear in your own tone and you hear in others' tone. When they're angry, it's hard to have a relaxed voice when we're angry. Can be just interrupting someone because we're angry with them. Won't listen to them. Can be a joke with a bit of knuckle behind it, like ha ha ha, but really you're trying to get a laugh at their expense, and there's not a goodwill there. We're criticizing, diminishing achievements of that person, whether it's in their presence or with others. We might be relating bad news about them. We're happy something bad's happened, or might be indicating we don't believe them, or indicating in conversation we don't respect them, we don't like them, somehow showing we don't like them. We're angry, so we want to make that clear. Or we don't trust them. It's another way of sort of having a go at someone to sort of just show we don't trust them, or we're offhand or dismissive, whatever, or talk to the hand. We maybe not so directly. Or in terms of our behaviour, there might be sort of passive-aggressive type behaviours, like not acknowledging someone, refusing to listen, excluding them from our attention, or just being generally difficult, answering any question with a question, trying to get a rise out of them some way, in some clever way. These are all sort of attempting to harm someone's well-being. There's anger underlying those sort of behaviours. Might be trying to dominate someone, or deliberately annoying them if they don't like things being untidy, then making a mess. Or if people are relaxed and don't mind a mess, then deliberately tidying and slamming the doors and making noise. And so in a nutshell, being a pain in the bum. That's often an expression of anger. So anger's a mind, not the actions that ensue from the anger, the harmful actions, but it's that mind of seeing someone in a bad light, exaggerating how bad they are, and wishing to harm. And the causes of anger are when we feel threatened. They've done something to threaten me, or they've threatened mine, my family, my possessions, my house, my reputation, and so on. My view of myself or my wealth. We get angry with people. Maybe they threatened our sense of identity. So we might identify with a political party, or particular religion, or particular nationality, and they've insulted that, and we managed to convert that into, it's become very personal because we've cling to that identity. Might be like, I've seen documentary of football hooligans on the rampage because their team lost, sort of tipping cars into canals and destroying things, and sort of somehow pushing a car into a canal is some sort of proof that your team isn't actually rubbish. So I don't quite get the logic, but so yeah, and often you get anger with nationalism. When nationalism becomes inflamed, then anger becomes on the rise towards minorities or towards other countries. When someone's gone, when someone's taken, a politician's taken a country to war, then at that point, when nationalism's really inflamed, you can't. It's difficult to ask rational questions about why the war's necessary, because that anger and the nationalism's on the march, and you're supposed to get in and support the boys, support the troops, and so on. So, yeah, that's. So we get angry also. Other causes of anger is if our health feels threatened, if someone sneezes on our food, or if you're at the restaurant, you ask for a coffee and they've got their finger right inside the cup when they're filling it up. In these COVID eras, that's enough to be a bit upsetting. Sneezing and bubble gum. Someone borrows a pen and chews the top of the pen, gives it back to you all chewed up. And lots of small things. We easily get upset, easily get angry with small things. So can be the noise of someone eating. I knew someone who used to it when he ate an apple. It was almost like he was ingesting. There was so much snuffling noises. It was almost like it was going up the nose rather than in the mouth. In the bathroom, you find a hair on your soap, or or hair in the bath, or someone squeezed the toothpaste in the middle. Then that can be very upsetting. I know someone who has to fluff the cushions every time they get off the couch because their partner's an interior designer, and gets upset if the cushions aren't perfectly plump and and fluffed. So yeah, if in traffic, things like anything we think is unreasonable when we're in a rush. So someone crawls towards green lights when we're in a hurry and we get angry. If someone texts us in uppercase, then that's very annoying. We think we've been shouted at. If someone drums with a finger drumming, after a while, that can be, or actual drums. I used to live next door to someone who was practicing drumming, and the drum roll again and again would fade out, and then you got an even louder one, an electronic drum kit. So yeah, that's challenging. Or small things like someone playing music we don't like. I know one of my sisters were very much like Tubular Bells when I was young. There's an LP that. I think by Mike Oldfield. It used to drive me crazy. And you get to this point where you'd say glockenspiel, and then the glockenspiel would join in, and it was like, wow, glockenspiel. And anyway, I found that I used to dread the time when that word glockenspiel was coming up. So we've all got our own things that we find upsetting, particularly when we're tired and stressed. When we're unhappy and frustrated, then anger arises more easily. So people have to do very little when we're tired or frustrated, unhappy with our lives. And if there's a relationship, a history of an angry sort of relationship, angry history with someone, then just seeing that person or hearing about them, hearing their name mentioned, hearing about their achievements is enough to trigger anger and upset. So we've all got, this is a root delusion, we've all got anger. And One of the problems with anger and with all delusions is the way the situation or the person appears to us is a distortion of reality. We're not seeing things in a balanced way. So in that sense, anger's dishonest. If we know there's a distortion and we keep investing in it, then really we're being dishonest. So all negativities arise based on a distortion, not only of the ultimate nature of the person or the situation, their emptiness, but also the conventional nature. There's a distortion there. And so that's why all delusions can be overcome, because they're not actually based in reality, which is good news. So with regards to anger, for example, there's the person we're angry with appears to our mind to be unpleasant from their own side. They appear in nature to be a nasty person when we're really angry with someone. We can't, it jumps out at us that we're seeing them as they are, and that's them. They're a nasty piece of work. And our anger sort of generates confirmation bias, and we only see the faults, and we translate anything good into a fault when we're angry with someone. We can't see their good qualities, whereas someone else can. Someone who likes that person can. The second exaggeration with anger is we tend to exaggerate the seriousness of the harm is exaggerated. So if someone else is criticized, or spoken to in a tone that they find upsetting, then we say, "Oh, get over it. It's a minor thing. Why don't you get over it? Forget about it. Just get on with life." But if someone speaks to us in a tone, or we're criticized, or in a tone we don't like, then we can take it very personally, and it can become a cause to respond back, and sort of a negative interaction. So it might be just a person speaking in a tired tone, all right, I'll do it. And we translate that through our imagination or superstition. They've just said, "You're tiresome, don't bother me." And we get upset. So yeah, Geshe many times he'd say too much imagination, too much superstition is cause of samsara, cause of suffering, cause of harming ourselves. Or someone with no intent, no ill intent, gives us some advice that we don't want, then that can be upsetting as well. Who are you to tell me what to do, or what I should do? So the third distortion of anger is we think the person we're angry with, or the external event, wrecked our day. That's what wrecked our day. When in reality, it was our own mind, our own way of apprehending the situation, our own way of responding to it, that wrecked our day or wrecked our week and caused us to be chewing away, thinking about that person, brooding over it. So the main cause, according to the Buddha, and according to all this lineage of extraordinary, accomplished practitioners, is the main cause of all of our delusions, is our own mind, our tendency in this case to be angry and to respond in an angry way. That's so yeah, when we're angry, there's all these distortions happening. But if we do have this sensitivity or this habit of anger inside, then, or this tendency, then anger arises. There's always triggers, and anger will arise. And quite often we'll brood over it, and our internal dialogue will reinforce it again and again and again and again. and we'll feel justified. We'll justify it. We'll think, why did they do that? Why didn't do anything? Blah, blah, blah. Internal dialogue going on forever. Robbie Burns, in one poem, he said something like, the angry person gathering their brows like gathering storm, nursing their wrath to keep it warm. So that's the internal dialogue of harming ourselves through this internal angry dialogue. So the disadvantages of that anger, we need to really understand that we've got this within us. To practice patience, we need to see those parts in us that are impatient, the angry parts, the irritable parts, and so on. And we need to understand the disadvantages clearly on a personal level. We need to see what are the disadvantages of anger. So some of Shantideva quotes on 705. Where am I looking? There is no sin like hatred and no tolerance like patience. Thus meditate on patience intensely with various methods. So anger is said to be the worst of all destructive emotions, all delusions. Anger is the worst in terms of the result it brings, because for example, domestic violence or war or destruction of our happiness, these all arise from anger. So the experience of anger, Shantideva said, nobody lives happily with anger. And that's very much the case. If you honestly look at yourself when you're angry, then feel the tension within, tension in your stomach, maybe tension in your heart, maybe your fists are tight, maybe your jaw's clenched. It's hard to enjoy things because this anger's churning through your mind. It's hard to taste food when you're eating. It's hard to sleep because your sleep's disturbed. Yeah, it's hard to digest. You can't relax. You can't enjoy others' company properly. So it's makes difficult situations harder because we already feel stressed when we're angry, and then additional stresses feels even harder. We lose our reputation. We lose our self-respect. We tend to act in a childish way, irrational way, selfish way when we're angry. It's embarrassing what we do, and it damages our reputation and it damages our self-respect. And also we can't think clearly when we're angry. So we lose the ability to find the best way out of a difficult situation, and we're compelled impulsively to make the situation worse through the angry response. In terms of health, there's tons of things documented now of the problems with anger. It releases stress hormones, so it releases adrenaline and cortisol, and these are cardiotoxic. They're damaging to our cardiovascular system. It wears out the heart basically, and causes breathing problems. It impairs the immune system. Prolonged anger causes loneliness and depression, and a cause of short life. So this tendency for anger, just on a personal level, is very problematic. In terms of relationships, we all know, you can probably think of many examples where it's very damaging for relationships. People want to feel safe. They want to feel loved and respected. But with anger, particularly habituated anger, then you feel like that person wants to harm me or has harmed me. And we have long memories of harm. So we might not remember long term what people did or said, but we might remember how they made us feel. And if we're dealing with if we're angry, then the other person's not going to be feeling too great. People won't trust us with anger, even if you help them out and underline. If you know that person's underlying got an anger issue, it's hard to trust that person because they've got that impulsive irrationality, that explosive anger. Communication breaks down. So these are all relationship type problems with anger because of the bias in our speech, then or critical speech, accusing speech, negative speech, all coming from this mind of anger, this wish to harm at some level. There's friction in the relationship, maybe cause job loss at work if we carry our anger into work. And at home, anger can, like home can be a wonderful home environment, a loving family, if we're lucky, or we can create that with our own family, respect and love and compassion, kindness and so on. Or it can be just friction and anger, can be abusive, can be, and that flows through people's lives. So has huge consequences. Kids end up with trauma, and again, often with anger or depression that flows through their life. So anger's got, or violence at home, at school, at the nightclub, or, extreme anger where people kill their own child to get back at their partner. Terrible things. It's just extreme, crazy results of anger, absolutely running headlong to suffering. There are lots of physical destruction, whether it's a tennis racket because you missed the shot and you smash the racket on the ground, or it's dropping a bomb on, like the US dropped a bomb on Hiroshima, then that's the sort of ultimate wish to harm, just destroying an entire city. And that's gone on through history, wars and destruction. And then there's the unmanifest results of anger that we don't see, which are actually more longer-term consequence, and that's the destruction of our merit. Anger is said to destroy merit, the positivity or positive energy, the positive internal environment within us that's the cause of happiness and cause of enjoyment and cause of human rebirth. Also the destruction of positive karma, reducing the results of positive karma and creating negative karma for, in the worst case, for lower rebirth from hellish experiences or lower rebirth experiences where we're harmed, or even human experiences if we get a human rebirth where we experience a lot of violence, a lot of anger and so on, a lot of malice, maybe a lot of loneliness. And then Shantideva says, by becoming angry towards a bodhisattva, on page 707, that by becoming angry towards a bodhisattva, the virtues arising from giving and ethics accumulated over 100 eons are destroyed in a moment. Therefore, there's no worse negativity than impatience. So becoming angry towards a holy being or a bodhisattva or a Buddha is particularly destructive because this is our connection or link to enlightenment. So those of us who lived with holy beings such as Geshe, I know myself, because sometimes dealing with a deluded mind, dealing with the purity of a holy being is challenging and stretching, and so certainly I myself have got lots of purification to do in that regard. And generally, anger obscures our Buddha potential. What we really need, absolutely need for happiness and well-being, is to reveal our Buddha nature, the natural purity within. And anger obscures this, like clouds obscuring the sky. So these are the disadvantages of anger. So in summary, Shantideva is correct. With anger, we're running towards suffering. Our internal mind of anger is our biggest internal enemy. It's the cause of huge amount of problems for us in this life, in future lives, and for being others we interact with, and for our friends and everyone we know. Their anger is also a huge problem for them. So next week we'll look at the advantages of patience. I think I've gone on a bit too long. So next week we'll look at the advantages of patience and the practices to overcome anger and develop this extraordinary, stable and peaceful and calm mind of patience. All right, so we just finish off with the prayers. I think I've gone on a bit too long, so we'll just do the dedication prayers on page 34. So, general dedication. By this virtue, may all beings complete the collections of wisdom and merit, and attain the two holy bodies arisen from wisdom and merit. May the precious superior mind of enlightenment be generated in those who have not yet generated it, and not decrease in those who have developed it, but increase continuously. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for putting up with me enumerating all the various things that that upset me. If anyone's got any questions or on anger or patience, then you can send them through on the the live chat. And next week we'll be looking more focusing on this marvelous great strength of mind or courage of patience. Someone's commented they're never going to say glockenspiel to me. Yeah. I think that's one of the hardest things, is to get a sense in our everyday life when we're not obviously angry, but we're doing little narky things in conversation or in our behaviour to upset others, and to recognise where that's coming from. Yeah. Anyway, I'll shut up now, and thanks very much for tuning in, everyone, and yeah, do it again next week. Hopefully we'll have our classes live, so we'll be able to come back to the temple soon. But until we hear that's the case, have a good week, and thanks very much, everyone.